Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II passed away at the age of 97 and was put to rest at the Balmoral Castle. Her death is not something anybody was ready for. It came as a shock to both the royal family and the world at large. But the bigger question is, what actually caused her death? When it comes to the royal family, it is rare that they reveal the actual cause of death. When Queen Elizabeth's father, King George, died, the palace didn't release the cause of his death immediately. Only a few close members of the royal family knew about the cause of his death. His own daughter, then Princess Elizabeth, the future Queen Elizabeth II, was away in Kenya as part of a tour of the Commonwealth when she heard of his passing, which was a shock to her because she had left him in good health. It was announced from Sandringham that he passed away peacefully in his sleep early morning. Privately, however, he was suffering from a number of health issues. Anxiety, exhaustion, artery blockages, and lung cancer, due to his extreme smoking, were all a part of his life as king. A servant found him dead at 7:30 morning. He died in February 1952. It was later revealed that a blood clot had stopped his heart from beating. England's Queen Elizabeth II passed away at the age of 96 at her Balmoral Castle. Her death has left the British royal family in shock. The palace announced that Queen Elizabeth II died peacefully at her home at Balmoral Castle in Scotland in the afternoon of September 8, 2022, but let's explore what may have caused her death. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and longest reigning British monarch, was put to rest at the King George VI Memorial Chapel in St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. You must know that many royals from King Edward IV have been laid to rest in this chapel for centuries. The Queen was temporarily buried alongside her parents, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and her young and only sibling Princess Margaret. A few weeks before her death, the Queen was not in good health. Queen's doctors were actually very worried for Her Majesty's health and had recommended she remain under extreme medical supervision and away from some heavy duties. She had cancelled an important scheduled trip to Northern Ireland under the advice of her doctors and spent a night in the hospital. The Queen tested positive for COVID. In February 2022, Queen Elizabeth II tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday. At the time of her diagnosis, she had been completely immunized and got a booster dose. The Queen's doctors immediately ordered her to rest after that, and she was forced to cancel appearances at several important events, including Remembrance Sunday services and the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland in November. After she returned to some of her duties, it was noticed from some pictures that she walked slowly with a stick, to which she said, "As you can see, I can't move," in reference to her leg. Many actually commented about her not looking firm. Studies have demonstrated that immunizations are safe and that serious adverse effects, such as death, are uncommon even for aged people. Hence, claims that Queen Elizabeth died due to the COVID-19 vaccine is likely untrue, but we may never know for sure. The passing of Prince Philip left her depressed. She and Philip were devoted to each other. She once described him as her strength and stay. Her sons say she said his death has left a huge void in her heart and life. Philip was the love of her life and stood by her side for nearly 70 years of her reign. He was always there for her. He supported her in everything she did. She relied on him a lot, and her health started to deteriorate upon his death. Both of them getting COVID didn't help matters either. She married Prince Philip against her parents' wishes. This just shows that she genuinely loved him. If a heartbreak can hurt someone both physically and mentally, imagine how difficult it would be to lose a husband. It's definitely not easy. She had lost weight and her firmness of tread, but she seemed to have all her wits about her. It is not a secret that Her Majesty's health declined after the death of her husband, but it is not certain this was the cause of her death. She had actually been deteriorating for months, but sheer force of will dragged herself off her dear bed to perform her duty to the nation she loved. Leukemia. Queen Elizabeth shocked viewers in some of the last photos of the Queen released by the palace on Tuesday, a few days before she passed, showing her shaking her bruised and blue hands with Britain's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. She met the UK Prime Minister and his replacement Liz Truss at Balmoral, instead of meeting them in London, as is the custom, due to her poor deteriorating health. While the Queen's press secretary hasn't yet addressed her bruised hands, top doctors have raised the alarm on the real reason for the monarch's supposed health concerns. Doctors claimed the hemorrhages are a clue that the 96-year-old was probably battling leukemia or lymphoma, which is cancer of the blood and on the brink of death. Symptoms of leukemia include losing weight, easy bleeding or bruising, even weakness. These symptoms matches that of the Queen. A rumor that began to spread is that Queen Elizabeth II may have died from a fall. This also is not entirely true because the palace has been transparent with regards to such incidents they would have announced. The Queen didn't suffer for a long time, as she was in high-level meetings in the days leading up to her death. It's unclear when Queen Elizabeth's cause of death will be made public following her death at 96, according to royal expert Sarika Bowes. Looking at the aftermath of King George VI's death could indicate what's to come following the Queen's death. One important thing you have to know about the Queen is that, during her reign she took a different path than previous kings and queens with regards to colonialism. She was the last British monarch who had any connections with colonies. She was the longest reigning monarch in British history, and her death will result in many changes, some of which we are not ready for. Queen II Elizabeth, also known as Elizabeth Alexandra Mary of the UK and 14 other Commonwealth organizations, was queen from 6 February 1952. She reigned for 70 years 214 days, surpassing Queen Victoria, her great-great-grandmother, making her the longest reigning monarch known to British history. She is also the second longest recorded of any monarch of a sovereign country. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth became the Queen of the United Kingdom on February 6, 1952, upon the death of her father, George VI. During that time, the nations of the world were still recovering from the most hideous and devastating war years in history. Food was still being rationed, reconstruction of bomb-blasted buildings was still being completed in many cities, families everywhere were putting their lives back together after mourning the deaths of thousands of soldiers. The nations of the world were still struggling to recover and move on. The new Queen's kingdom was a large part of that recovery. The new Queen had worked as a soldier during the war, which was not an easy task. As the Queen of the United Kingdom, Elizabeth II preserved the monarchy and secured the line of succession. She moved the royal family into positions of great responsibility and achievement, helping those in her kingdom through all walks of life. Most of the royal family members had jobs to do in this direction, and the Queen worked tirelessly as their leader. The royal family became the royal firm working for the people of the United Kingdom. Immediately after the Queen's death, her son Prince Charles ascended the throne with the title of King Charles III. The King's coronation will possibly not happen anytime soon because we are still mourning the late Queen. Queen Elizabeth waited for over a year after her father King George VI died. We now have a new monarch, King Charles, but the Queen's legacy will still live on. Our hearts may be filled with sadness, but Queen Elizabeth's legacy will help us heal. She brought love and happiness to so many people, and our world is a better place because of her.